Good evening and welcome to another semester of Cyclone InCyders. This semester alongside me, Matt Van Winkle, Dan the Assassin Casson, not going to make it back with us this semester. So Matt's going to be joining us all semester. And like we did first semester, we're going to break this show into three segments. First segment, we're going to focus on men's basketball. Second segment will be women's basketball. And the third segment, we'll switch it up a little bit. But tonight, we've got NCAA national basketball as we're getting into tournament play. Really exciting time.
We'll keep the same theme going, I guess, throughout the show.
Exactly. Really exciting time in the basketball landscape.
Absolutely.
But first, Iowa State basketball, started off maybe people a little bit disappointed. A bad loss down in Des Moines to Drake. Fell to UNI. Fell to Michigan back-to-back. That one's starting to look not such a bad loss as they were up on Michigan State last time I checked tonight.
Yeah.
But then, you start Big 12 play 2-0.
Right.
And then a chance really to make a point on the national scene with Missouri coming into town and going on the road to Lawrence for Kansas. In two games, as much as it's hard as it is to say, Iowa State really could have won both those games, Matt. So what would you really see from the team this last week, dropping both games to Missouri and Kansas?
Right now it's a really exciting time to be an Iowa State fan. Obviously, get that big win against Texas to start off the conference, and everyone's pretty excited. It's a really exciting time, and you get that win against Texas, you get the win against down in Texas A&M, very exciting. And like you said, you have the chance to really make a statement against Kansas and Missouri, two top 10 teams right now. Drop those games, but really they were very close games if you look at it. I mean, the box score might not have said the same. If you look at Kansas, they lost by, it was 12, 10 points. But really when you lose to Kansas in Lawrence by 10 points, that's really impressive. And I think if you're an Iowa State fan, you got to be happy right now with the way the team is playing. Royce White's averaging just about a double-double, leading the team in points, rebounds, and assists. The future's looking bright for this team. I think if they keep this momentum going, 2-2 in the conference isn't a bad way to start it off.
Exactly. And fans get a little bit restless sometimes. The team does come out, play really, really well in the first half. They were in that Kansas game down in Lawrence on 3 occasions up double digits. Their highest lead, I believe, was 12. So they can play with any team in the country. Sure. And Fog Allen Fieldhouse, arguably the toughest place to play in the country. And especially under a Bill Self-coached team. I saw a graphic while watching that game. In his 3 coaching stints at was it Illinois and Kansas, and I forget where he was right away.
I can't remember the third either,
but he's lost 10 total home games. So
that's impressive in itself.
Very impressive. So Iowa State went down there, played well, kind of lost their composure for 2-3 minutes between the 10 and 7-minute mark, and that's where Kansas, I think, went on a 30-9 run and really put Iowa State away. But we knew this coming into the year. We're not going to have a true point guard, and we're going to live and die by the 3. And I think that's exactly what's been happening the last 2 games.
And if you look at the Missouri and Kansas games, Iowa State led at halftime in both of those games. And I think that's something that Fred Hoiberg really wants to emphasize with his team, is that you got to hold on to that lead. You can't let it go. I mean, the first half, it's always nice to take a lead into halftime, but you want to keep that momentum going. And I think they did that really well against Texas and Texas A&M. Against Texas A&M, they didn't even let off the gas at all. It was a crazy game. Watching that on TV, it was just a fun game to watch. We were just hitting shots left and right. The team looked great. I think if this team wants to improve, though, I think you're right. Everybody else needs to contribute more. I mean, Royce is doing a great job. Booker's stepping up, hitting threes every once in a while. We were mentioning earlier, we were talking before the show, Chris Babb has been shooting the ball extremely well. Everybody seems to be contributing right now, and it seems to be heading in the right direction.
So. Chris Babb there earlier went on I think they said he missed over 30 in a row, and then really got on last 2 games. But then, it hurt him a lot. He didn't score down in Lawrence, so that's something, he's going to have to work on, maybe get his shots. But, as Fred Hoiberg has said in his last 2 conferences, if you're not scoring on the offensive end, help the team out in a different way. Sure. Pressure your man on defense, and Chris Babb has really been doing that. Held Marcus Denman to 4 points, and those 4 points were just garbage free throws at the end when they were fouling. So if we keep going here, and he shut down Relford in Lawrence to, I think he scored less than 10, so he's really been doing a good job. But Iowa State, their schedule is getting easier as tomorrow night, Oklahoma State, who was also 2-2 in the conference, picked up a win over Texas A&M, and Oklahoma fell horribly to Baylor last Saturday, 41 points, 106-65 is the final. If we take a look at the stats here, Matt, 9-8 for that overall record for Oklahoma State. Maybe not impressive, but still, this is a team. They've got talented athletes, and they got a leader like Keaton Page, who can come in and light any team up.
Oh, Page! I just remember him coming into the Hilton last year and just shooting the heck out of the ball. And you look at the free throw percentage for Iowa State right now; it's just god awful. It's just terrible. And from a Fred Hoiberg coach team, who the guy has won the shots from the heart, it's going to be back-to-back, I'm pretty sure. You'd hope that a team like Iowa State would be able to make their free throws. We're shooting something around 50%. But you look at the stats between Iowa State and Oklahoma State, pretty similar actually. Both teams 2-2 in the conference. Oklahoma State 9-8 in the conference. So it's going to be an interesting game tomorrow at Hilton. I think Iowa State's got the home court advantage at Hilton. It's going to be nice to be back at Hilton too. I think going on the road to Kansas probably took a lot out of those guys, but it's going to be nice to have the home crowd behind us. As we're seeing the highlights here from the Missouri game, just the crowd was so into it in that game, and it was this great environment at Hilton Coliseum. Hilton Magic was back that night, and when Scotty hit that half-court shot to take the lead in halftime, I mean, that place just erupted.
Definitely. I mean, Iowa State, arguably, as Fred Hoiberg and all the players keep saying, the best fans in the country, and they're going to be there whether the team's struggling or whether they're playing well like they have been the last couple times at homes. But I think Iowa State really needs to pick up this home W over Oklahoma State, get a winning record in the conference, keep pace. Right now, Iowa State is ranked 4th in the conference behind a stacked Baylor, Kansas, Missouri. So if they can stay in the top 6, I think that's really going to help them as we move into NCAA tournament time. And like we were talking before, I saw Joe Lunardi's bracketology. Never too early to start talking about that.
Never too early at all.
He had Iowa State as one of the first 4 teams out of the tournament. And you look at it, Iowa State's won the games they're supposed to win.
Sure.
But they've lost the ones, they need to get a signature win if they are going to jump into the tournament.
Like a Paul Rhodes-esque football win, and you make a great point. I think they do need to get one of those, and I think they're going to have a great chance. They got Oklahoma State coming up, then they got Texas Tech on the road, and I think if they can get those 2 wins, and they go to play Texas again, because we played Texas at home for our first conference game. We're going to play at Texas. I think if we can come out of that 3-0, make a huge statement, and get to 5-2 in the conference, Aaron, I think that would be huge for this program. Be a huge confidence booster for this team.
And definitely going into this season, we knew Royce White was going to be productive. Yeah. And that's exactly what he's been the last game. As you've said, averaging a double-double, shooting nearly 53% from the field.
It's not bad.
But 53% also from the free throw line. And just think, Iowa State really, really struggled, like we said, in the Missouri and Kansas game. Chris Allen's been struggling. He's normally a pretty pure free throw shooter. So if you knock down these free throws instead, the game's going to be completely different. And don't be surprised with that low free throw percentage for Royce White if it's almost kind of like he's going to get hacked. He's going to get molested. He's going to get beat up down low once we get into the heart of the Big 12 schedule. But why not if he can't shoot free throws?
That's exactly what you want. And with a team like Iowa State, Royce White's really their only big guy, big defensive presence down the road. Jordan Raley kind of is, not so much. But that's exactly right. You want to have guys driving hard to the hole. Those guards, Boo Boo Paula was doing a great job of that. I'm just going to throw that out there. Boo Boo was doing a great job until he hurt his wrist. He broke a bone, fractured a bone in his wrist, so he's got a cast. He's out for, I think,
6 to 8
6 weeks. So that really hurts this team, I think, because Boo Boo was playing great basketball. He'd come in and put in really good minutes for this team. And something that Boo Boo was doing a really good job of before he got hurt was driving hard to the hole and getting to the free throw line. And Boo Boo is known for hitting free throws, and that's something this team lacks. And we saw against Kansas, if they would have made more of their free throws, maybe they would have had a better chance of tying that game up, setting it to overtime maybe. And that free throws are just huge for this team right now. I think if they can get that percentage up, we'll see more wins out of this team.
I think right now where this team is really struggling, Matt, is where they go on their runs and they get excited and everything, but then a confident team like Missouri and Kansas comes back and counterpunches and goes on another run, and this Iowa State team just doesn't quite know how to manage that situation. And, when Kansas went on that 30-9 run, well, the emotions started going on the bench. You saw it. Royce White was getting upset, emotionally upset, and everybody on the team, which is completely understandable. Sure. But this team needs to learn how to manage the emotions. Every team you play is going to go on their little mini runs, and you need to find a way to manage that. So as we move forward, Oklahoma State tomorrow and Texas Tech going down to Lubbock on Saturday. That one's not going to be easy as they've lost their first 4 Big 12 games. If we can pull up the Big 12 standings here real quick before we hit the break, this is a pretty powerful conference. You got Baylor, Kansas, and Missouri all ranked in the top 10, and Iowa State right there at number 4, 2-2, and then Texas 2-2 we've already beaten. How do you see this shaping up as we move forward and into March?
You know what? I love Big 12 basketball season. It just gets me so excited, for March Madness. I feel like it's almost identical because you get these teams. We saw it last night. We saw Baylor and Kansas play a really great game. And Kansas came out on top of that one, but they were at home. They kind of had a little bit of an advantage, but they really made a statement. And Kansas, I believe, is going to be the top team throughout the rest of the conference schedule here. 5-0 in the conference. You know what? I think Texas is going to move up a little bit. I think that's a little bit deceiving. I think they're having a little bit of a slow start. I think Texas will probably move up. Missouri and Baylor are going to hang around there. I'd like to see Iowa State hang around there with them as well. I think we definitely can. I think we're definitely amongst the teams like Oklahoma State, Kansas State, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Texas Tech. I think we're equally, if not better than most of those teams. So I can see us ending up somewhere in the middle of the conference, maybe maybe fifth or sixth by the end of the season. So
yeah, I agree with you. I think this is the least talented team Kansas has had in a while, but I still think they find a way. Missouri's going to be tough. That team is probably one of the more confident and just well-prepared teams in the Big 12. They're going to be tough. They got a big test once again in Baylor coming up Saturday. Yeah. And I think at the end of the day, it's a long ways away. A lot of basketball to be played. Kansas,
anything can happen too in the conference too. Seriously, anything can happen. We've seen a lot of upsets already in college basketball, so anything can happen, Aaron.
Real quick before we go to break, let's just pick the game tomorrow night. Who do you got? Iowa State, Oklahoma State?
I got Iowa State in this one, Aaron. I think Iowa State probably wins by at least 10 in this game.
I agree. I think Keaton Page, Olakemi, and everybody on Oklahoma State, they're going to come in. They're going to be definitely playing well. But I'll agree with you. I think Iowa State gets a much-needed W and a real streak here where you can pick up a lot of straight wins.
It's going to be fun to see this game down at Gallagher, Iowa, there in Stillwater, too, because I think that's a very tough environment to play as well.
So we got to hit our first break here on Cyclone InCyders coming up. The Iowa State women's basketball team struggling, to say the least, right now. 0-4 in the Big 12. We'll try to straighten out that mess as we return. Thank you. You're watching Cyclone InCyders. Welcome back to Cyclone InCyders alongside Matt Van Winkle. I'm your host, Aaron Bauer, and it's time for our second segment. Going to the Twister Sisters right now, Matt, and they're 0-4 in conference play. Worst start in the Bill Finley era. And they lost a tough one to last year's national champions, Texas A&M, on Saturday.
Yeah, it was just a tough game to watch, Aaron. It was just no fun. I mean, you sense something in this team that's not right. I mean, the energy's not there. The shooting's not there. They're just making very poor decisions. And as you said, 0-4 to start the conference, the worst start from in the Bill Finley era. And it's not something you expect out of a Bill Finley team. But what we know about this team and we knew about them coming into the season was that they're a little bit inexperienced. Lauren Mansfield is one, help me with the other senior.
Chastity
Cole, thank you. Really not doing much. And that probably helps me that they're not doing much because I can't remember her name. But really, they're not playing well right now. And this schedule for Iowa State just does not get any easier either. They have Texas on the road coming up. Then they go to number 20, Texas Tech. Number 22, Kansas State on the road, and at Texas A&M again. So the schedule just does not get any easier for these the Twister Sisters. It's really tough to watch them, too, because these Cyclone teams in the past have just been, you'd expect them to get to the tournament. And right now, it looks like they probably won't. I mean, they're last in the Big 12. You look at that and you're thinking, geez, I mean, the Big 12 is a great conference, but Iowa State to be last, you usually expect them to be somewhere in the middle, somewhere towards the top. But the Big 12 is no easy conference.
Yeah, like you said, it's untypical seeing this Iowa State basketball team. You're used to each and every year them being in the tournament, and it's usually cliche. I think this is truly a rebuilding year. Hallie Christopherson's kind of in her sophomore slump right now, only averaging 3.5 points per game. If we can pull the stats back up for the Iowa State-Texas matchup tomorrow night down in Austin, Iowa State, 62 points per game, only shooting 39% from the field goal range, and you're accustomed to Iowa State shooting the ball well from behind the arc. 29% isn't horrible, but you're used to seeing that maybe up by the 35, 40 range some years.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're used to this Kelsey Bolte shooting the three, getting 20, 25 points per game. But right now, they're just what I noticed at that the Texas A&M game, they're taking really poor shots right now. They really have no direction, it seems like to me, and that's something that's very untypical from a Bill Finley team. You might give him a little leeway because of his health this year. He hasn't been able to talk as much to his team when they're out on the court. You make up excuses, but really, when it comes down to it, it's how the team plays at that game. And right now, they're not playing great basketball. And somebody has to step up besides Chelsea Poppins. She's been really carrying this team right now. And we actually spoke to the team after the Texas A&M game. They vented their frustration. So here's Bryn Williamson, Chelsea Poppins, and Coach Finley.
I don't think skill-wise they do a lot more. I think their effort was just a lot. It was there tonight, and ours wasn't. I think it was more of ours was just going in there, and it's kind of what Coach usually says is false effort. You go in there and you make it look good, but you really don't do anything. I think tonight we really settled for just them getting their boards, them their putbacks in. We'll get it the next play, and it just turned into more offensive rebounds on their end and a lack of effort on ours.
We just keep picking each other up. When people's heads are down, you just give them a high five, pick them up, and come back tomorrow ready for practice, ready to shoot around, get in the gym, and just make the shots that we know we can make.
And when we had a chance to score, we obviously, our offense is pitiful. I mean, that's a brilliant statement. But you can't miss front ends of one-on-one. You can't miss layups. You can't miss open three-point shots. We didn't turn the ball over a lot that led to points, which was a focus. We can't have people getting 2 and 3 points in a game, not at this level to have a chance. So there's no simple answers to this. It's hard for everyone. This is about growing up and being an adult, and hey, this is life. Sometimes life sucks, and you get kicked around. You got to bow up, stand up straight, do what you're supposed to do, and that's what we'll keep doing. And hopefully things will turn a little bit, and we'll have some success. But no one's going to do anything different except we'll have to be more creative in some ways. But the next game's Texas, and that's what we got to focus on.
And that's actually the best I've heard Coach Finley talk at all this season. And he's really been battling that throat surgery he had earlier this year. But as he said, you can't have people scoring 2 points a game, people that you expect to get 10 points a game. It's just you look up and down the box scores each night, and Chelsea Poppins seems to be the only lone Cyclone that ever scores, double figures. And you expect, maybe Anna Prince with her height to get double-digit rebounds, double-digit points every night, and we're not seeing that out of her. And as you look here at the graphic, Chelsea Poppins averaging 14 points per game, shooting nearly 50%, 54% from the field, and just really carrying this team along. I think if she hasn't been playing at her best, then this team is just looking even worse.
She's definitely had a great junior season. Take nothing away from her. It's just kind of hurting her that the team's really not playing their best basketball. But I think if Iowa State is really going to turn this season around, make it respectable, maybe still finish 500 in the conference, it's going to go to those 2 lone seniors, Laura Mansfield and Chastity Cole on the outside. They're going to have to drive and dish, make plays happen for this team to be successful. And I know, it's hard for Hallie Christopherson still. This sophomore slump, you see it from almost everybody. They struggle their second year there with so much emotion their first year. And coming back, everybody knows how they can play, and they guard them so much tighter. So they'll be interesting to see if she can maybe come out of it. I still think she's going to have a great career here at Iowa State.
Sure.
And, Poppins is coming back next year, and we're getting great play, as you heard from earlier, Bryn Williamson and also Nikki Moody. So there's hope here. They just got to get some more team chemistry and try to turn the season around.
I mean, Moody and Williamson, 2 great freshmen on this team, and as you said, they're going to keep continuing to contribute, and we need that from them. We need that. And I think they can actually learn something from Poppins, and Christopherson as well. Christopherson had a great freshman year. Nobody really thought she was going to perform like she did, and she actually ended up playing probably due to the biggest surprise of last year, but we can just say that. But, in that press conference after the Texas A&M game, Coach Gary Blair was saying that he's experienced something like what Finley's going through. 2 years ago, his team had a similar start to what Finley's team is going through now. They ended up finishing the second half of the Big 12 schedule very strong, ended up getting to the tournament, into the Elite 8, should have made it to the Final Four, lost on, I think, a last-second shot. But he can sympathize with Finley right now, and I think that's what this team needs is, they just need to keep moving forward, keep progressing each game, each practice, and just keep moving forward, because you can't take a game and let it soak in. You got to just keep moving forward, because this team's 0-4 in the conference. That's not something to brag about at all.
It's one thing about the Big 12. It's not going to get much easier. No. It's game after game. Each competition is going to be tough.
Big 12,
exactly. Texas tomorrow, and they got to go down to Lubbock, or rather, Texas Tech's coming up here on Saturday.
Right.
Excuse me. Pull up those stats real quick. We'll touch on it before we go to break. Texas Tech 14-2, heading into Big 12 conference play undefeated. Lost last night by 1 to Kansas State. So they've lost 2 straight. They're not going to be happy as Iowa State goes down there, or rather they come up here. Excuse me. I'm thinking the men go down to Texas Tech on Saturday.
Yeah,
so it's going to be a real tough stretch here for Bill Finley. He's a good coach. He's going to get the kids prepared. Play for a little pride on the name on the front of your jersey. I think that's what he's really going to stress to these girls.
Right.
So before we hit our final break here, quick prediction tomorrow night: Iowa State and Texas down in Austin.
The way this Iowa State team is playing right now, I don't see them going down and getting a road victory that easily. I think it's going to be a good game. I'm guessing Texas Tech will probably pull this one out. They're the 20th team in the nation, so that's pretty impressive. The Big 12 always have been saying this whole time, very impressive conference. I'm going to give this one to Texas Tech, though. From what I saw against Texas A&M, it was not very impressive, but who knows, maybe the team will make a quick turnaround.
Exactly. Good guard down there for Texas, Chastity Fussell, 20 points back-to-back in their last 2 games. I think she leads the Longhorns once again, and they pick up a win over Iowa State. One last final break here on Cyclone Insiders. We've talked Iowa State men's and women's basketball. Now we're getting to that time of year where NCAA teams start making their run in the bracket.
I love it.
Starts coming together. Old Joe Lenardi already has his first bracket out on ESPN. We'll touch on that. Iowa State, one of the teams he's talking about.
Hey,
so
I like it.
Keep it right here on Cyclone Insiders. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Cyclone Insiders. One last segment to touch on here before we leave you tonight. NCAA Basketball March right around the corner, Matthew.
Man,
and it's getting exciting. You got the Big East where right now Syracuse, #1 in the nation, really running through the Big East.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to lose one in the Big East, which would be nuts if they go to undefeated. I don't think they will. I actually think they'll drop one here eventually. We still got undefeated teams. Baylor fell last night.
Yeah.
One last undefeated team besides Syracuse, and that's the Murray State Racers. We'll touch on them. Touch on them.
I think they made the NIT last year, maybe.
Touch on them here in a little bit. But if we pull up the NCAA rankings right away, we got Syracuse at top, 20-0. Kentucky, 17-1. Their only loss, that heartbreaker last-second shot in Bloomington, Indiana, to the Hoosiers. Baylor suffered the first loss last night, as you know, to Kansas. And then you got the old Dukies right there hanging at #4. They'll obviously jump Baylor. I think their top 3 coming in next week will be Syracuse, Kentucky, Duke, respectively. And then, like we said, Baylor, Missouri, Kansas, all up there for the Big 12.
Oh, yeah.
How about #8, UNC? 15-3 there, and one of those 3 losses was a shellacking to the Seminoles.
I don't even think that's not even paying it justice. It was just like mauling. It was just unbelievable. I did not see – nobody saw that coming. That was just a crazy game. And you saw that weird finish, Roy Williams pulling all of his starters out of the game and taking everybody off the court, leaving 5 walk-ons on the floor. I think today he even apologized for that to his walk-ons for doing that to them, because you saw everybody, all the Florida State fans, just waiting to storm the court there. It was an exciting time to be a Florida State fan, but if you're a UNC fan, I'm a Harrison Barnes fan, so I'm kind of a UNC fan, I'm going to say, but it was just a weird game. Like, UNC didn't have anything going. They would miss shots, and Florida State would just come, get the ball up the court quickly, and dunk it right in their face, and it was crazy atmosphere.
Let's focus on right now real quick here. Syracuse, 10th in the nation in assists, obviously 20-0, #1. Do they make it through the Big East undefeated? Is that possible?
I think it's possible. It's very possible. Syracuse is playing great basketball right now. Jim Boeheim has got his team playing unbelievably well, and I think they could escape the Big East without a blemish and straight into the NCAA tournament, which I think they'll definitely earn a 1 seed, unless they fall off the map and something unbelievable happens. But
as tough it is to say, you know, the Big East, no doubt, probably the best conference in college basketball. Sure. They might be a little bit down this year in Big East standards.
Sure.
I think if Syracuse is going to drop a game, it's going to come early February, where they got here Georgetown, Connecticut, Louisville back to back. So if they're going to drop one of those, I think it's right in the beginning of February there.
Yeah.
But I also agree they'll be easily a #1 seed, along with, I think, Kentucky, Duke, and then either Kansas or Missouri, whoever wins that series in the Big 12. I think Baylor is going to fall, but they're going to be a very tough #2.
Yeah.
But now that puts you at an interesting perspective here. At the beginning of the segment, we talked about Syracuse undefeated. The Murray State Racers also undefeated.
Yeah, 18-0.
Ohio Valley Conference, undefeated, obviously. Only played 1 ranked team so far, and they beat Memphis, who at the time was number 20, 76-72. Do they make it all the way undefeated?
I mean, I can't even name another team in the Ohio Valley Conference off the top of my head, but I think that they have a good chance to. I mean, that conference doesn't seem to be like it's very good, so I think they have a good chance to be. I think you're looking at bracketology. We're talking it already. It seems kind of crazy, but I think I would like to see them, if they go undefeated or maybe even a loss or 2, get a top 5 seed in March Madness brackets, but you never know. It's kind of weird with those mid-majors. You never know where they're going to get seeded.
Tennessee Tech, who they beat, is also in Ohio Valley Conference, and they got Morehead State tomorrow night. So watch out for Morehead State. But, you know, we're looking at the first bracket here, a little predictions. You know, we're 4 games into conference play, but never to really, as you said. Iowa State right now, one of the last 4 teams out of the tournament. So that's kind of interesting. You know, Iowa State, like we said earlier in our first segment, needs to get a signature win. And then that thing, Murray State was a 7 seed.
Yeah.
And I think Joe Lenardi, who was on for ESPN, had them losing a game and dropping to number 7, which I can see.
Yeah.
But as we close down the show here right now, 2 quick questions for you. Iowa State, did they make it in? And Murray State goes undefeated, presuming they go undefeated. Where do you put them in the bracket?
I do think Iowa State will make it. If they keep playing the way they are right now, I think they do. You look at the RPI, that's something you also got to factor in, not just the record. You got to look at RPI as well, strength of schedule in the Big 12. Obviously, we've been saying this whole show, it's very tough. And I think Murray State does get in. I think I'm going to say they're a 5 seed, but you know, that's what I love about conference play. Anything can happen. We saw Iowa beat Michigan this weekend. Nobody saw that. I mean, I didn't for sure, but what do you think, Aaron?
I'll tend to agree with you. I think Iowa State does squeak in. I think it actually, you know, a couple years ago, last time they were in the NCAA tournament, 2005, they came in as an 8 seed, knocked Minnesota off, and then eventually lost second round to future national champions North Carolina. Yep. I kind of see the same thing happening this year. One surprised me if they're an 8 or 9, and you know that with the new formatting, play-in game at an 11 seed, possibly an Iowa State right there. And Murray State going undefeated. I don't know if you want to consider mid-majors, but last mid-major, you know, to be up there, remember Drake number 5 a couple years ago, ended up losing to Western Kentucky, the whole 12 over 5 seed. Funny things that happen. I think if Murray State does go undefeated, I'd like to see him at a 4 seed, maybe even a 3. Give him a chance.
Sure.
You know, make things interesting.
Why not?
So we're out of time here on Cyclone InCyders, but don't worry, we'll be back next Tuesday night, same time, 8:30, right here on ISU TV. Invite everybody tomorrow night. Go out and support the Cyclones. 8 p.m. tip as Oklahoma State comes to town. If you can't make it out to Hilton, you can catch that game on ESPNU. So for Matt Van Winkle, I'm Aaron Bauer. We'll see you next Tuesday night. Thanks for watching Cyclone InCyders.